Hi, welcome to the tarot reading for this week. Um, so I'll get started with the Rider-Waite Tarot deck today. This is the traditional deck that most people are most familiar with, and a lot of other decks are either partially or fully based on this one. So I'm going to go through some of the meanings of the cards as far as what you can use in a more general sense if you want to work with your own deck and start to read without, looking it up on a book. Okay. So when I shuffle, I just usually wait for one to jump out. But you can do it however you like. Sometimes people like to kind of fan them out and close their eyes and intuitively take one. I also don't use a spread. I don't use a set spread. I just kind of take the cards as they come and then see what the message is. Okay, so we have the Three of Wands. So the Three of Wands are a minor arcana. So the major arcana are the archetypal cards, and the minor arcana are more day-to-day, everyday kind of dramas. So here we have the suit of the wands. So this is connected with the fire element and the passion and purpose that we have in life with our life force energy. And a few things right away you can notice about the card. So you can really break down a lot of different aspects of the card symbolically. I mean, you can just spend tons of time on color theory, on numerology. So the three, we'll start with that. The number three is traditionally connected with creating a plan, like starting something, you're setting it in motion. You have the blueprint for something that you're out to do. And then you can also see around the head of the character is this kind of headband. Now, this is the magician's headband. So the magician is the archetypal number one. It's casting the spell, it's setting something in motion, creating something. So there's kind of this reference back to that number one. So you can look at the numbers as kind of this journey. So the magician is the number one. So we're referencing the number one with this headband here. So that's about manifesting and creating your reality. So now he's progressed. So he's embodied duality, number two. So that's like the kind of black and white. Whenever you see this kind of checkered board, you can start to ponder just any kind of theme that has to do with duality, right? So there's the tension of the opposites, the dualistic way of thinking. Dualism is what creates our reality. So he has the lesson of the one, of the manifestation, of pulling all the tools together to create. And then the next step after the numbers of the one is the two, the lesson of duality. So he's kind of wearing that as almost like showing that he's kind of mastered that kind of balancing the tension of the dualistic way. So balancing polarity. And now he's arrived at the number three. So with those lessons of the one and two, now he's at the three. He's kind of cast the spell. And then number two is this kind of duality comes into play as he's things are coming into form after the casting of the spell. Now number three is making the plan. So the plan is being set off, and you can see there's two ways you can kind of look at what's happening in the water. It can either be that he's setting the ships off to sail. Excuse me, he's maybe setting the ships off to sail. He has his plan and then he's enacting the plan, or it could be his ships are coming in. So seeing what has happened with the plan that he set in motion. So with the cards, there's really no wrong way to interpret them. And especially if there's something in the card that resonates very personally for you. If a scene looks familiar, like something else that's happened in your life recently, or sometimes the characters can even look like someone that you know, which is very interesting when that comes to happen. So just really look at the card. If you're doing your own cards, look at the card and really see what you see. So he has this kind of higher up perspective, and the Two of Wands has a similar perspective. It's this kind of high up looking out. You have a broad range of view. You can see the distance. And this is a good reminder too, is this kind of perspective, because when we get caught up in the details of things, we can get trapped, and we can kind of really lose ourselves in that, and we can really spiral out. So this message could be a prompt to kind of zoom out and take this kind of wide lens perspective. I went through a point where I was getting kind of trapped up in a lot of details about certain things in my life. And I just kind of spontaneously started drawing these sketches of these landscapes that were just like far away. And I was drawing these little teeny tiny people in the landscapes, like little stick figures that were just like in the distance, so tiny. And this is so soothing to me to make these drawings. And I had no idea why I enjoyed making them so much. And then after a little while of doing this and making several of these drawings, I realized that it was this perspective I was taking. It's like when you zoom out, it's like everything looks peaceful. It's like when you see the picture of the Earth from space, it's hard to imagine that there's any war on such a beautiful and peaceful looking planet. So sometimes it helps to just kind of zoom out from the whole thing, disconnect and unengage so that you can gain that perspective. So another wands card. So this is the 7 of Wands. So again, with that fire element, the wands are the element of fire. Okay, and you can see he's defending himself. So this is often, and just the 7, the number 7 in general, it's connected with the Chariot and the major arcana. 7s are about boundaries. So you can see he's really kind of fighting off whatever energies are coming towards him, and he's setting his boundaries, saying, no, you can't come into my field. So this could be literal, like maybe there are literal boundaries you need to make. Could be even be like, I don't know, maybe you're having some kind of argument with a neighbor about the property line. It could be very literal, like that kind of boundary. Or sometimes it can be about this kind of energetic boundary that we have. So we are all interconnected. We do all connect energies with each other. And so what tends to happen is if you have kind of a larger psychic container, if you are sensitive, if you are empathic, if you have a very awakened consciousness, people can unconsciously sense that about you, and they can start dumping their own unprocessed emotions and their own kind of like repetitive thoughts into your field. And you having a porous energy field can pick up all sorts of psychic garbage from other people. But sometimes it can seem so real that it's hard to imagine that it's not your own thing. Or it can just be that the energy of whatever the thought form is, or the energy of whatever the belief is, or the emotion is that they're dumping into you, you feel it, and then you logically try to make sense of it. So what you do is you apply it to something in your life, and then you kind of create a problem in your life so that you can explain what it is that you're feeling and thinking, but it's not even yours. So this kind of practice of whenever something comes up, whether it's discursive thought or some kind of like nagging feeling, it can even come up in dreams as well, to just ask ourselves, like, is this really mine? Is this really my material? Is this stuff the contents of my own psyche, or am I picking this up from someone else? And, like, well, a lot of us have heard of this term, like a psychic vampire, where people can draw energy from us to feed their own energetic fields. And it can work this way too. Like a psychic vampire doesn't have to just take, it can also like push negative things into your field. So just getting into the habit of trying to find the discernment between what's yours and what's not yours can be a very lifelong process, but especially if you're a sensitive person and, very intuitive, it tend to pick up a lot of things from other people because they unconsciously sense that you have this capacity to process their things for them so that they don't have to do it for themselves. And you can also just feeling your own energy fields that it is strong and protected. And you don't have to do anything drastic like, creating like an energy field made of a mirror to reflect it back, because if you block too much off, then it's hard to connect. But what you can do, this is actually a really interesting practice that I got from my therapist. And it's very practical and pragmatic. But what you do is, and it also, it helps in the physical health sense too. But if you know that you're one of these people that can pick up the energies of others, drink lots of water throughout the day. And then every time you have to pee, you just imagine that you're peeing out all of the contents of other people's energies and the things that you've picked up, and you're just getting rid of them. They're flushing out of you. So if you keep drinking water and doing that, it's really incredibly effective. It sounds kind of silly and weird, but I'm telling you, it's like one of my favorite practices, and I find it really works to just flush out all of the things that you pick up. I mean, you can even pick up things from people you don't know, especially if you work around a lot of people or, you're in a big public place. It can be exhausting. So that's a good boundary practice. So what could be coming through with these first two cards is that, if you have enacted a plan about something, there may be something coming up along the way where you have to defend this plan somehow. There could be some challenge coming through where you have to set a boundary, or you have to somehow defend this plan that you're enacting. So finding that strength and that purpose and that life force energy is really important to make sure that you can defend what you're creating. Okay, so this is the Four of Swords. So this, sometimes people think this person is no longer alive, but it's actually someone who's just resting. It's the Knights of Templar would assume this position after battle to kind of reflect and integrate their experience. And you can kind of see the sword, the one sword is here, and then you have the three swords on the wall. So swords are about sometimes conflict. It's also connected with the element of air, which has to do with technology and communication and ideas, everything in the mental plane. So here it's like he's reflecting on a thought, reflecting on a conflict maybe. And so it's this message, this prompt that integration is important, and it's a foundational aspect of any journey, because the number four is about foundations and structure. Four is also in the Jungian kind of thought process about things. Four is the number of individuation. So it's a completion number. So that's why here you see he's reflecting on what's happened. So it's an integration time where something has completed, but when something completes, you need to take the time to stop, review, reflect on what's happened. So you can see, if you started here with your plan, and then maybe there was some difficulty, some kind of, boundary that needed to be set, or something that had to be kind of fought against. And then there has to be, after something like that happens, there needs to be this moment where you reflect on what that was and how you approached it, how you dealt with it, what worked, what didn't work. So this whole moment of processing everything is really, really important to everything we do. And I like to also connect this card with the practice of Yoga Nidra, which I love to teach and practice myself. And Yoga Nidra is an excellent way to connect with that energy of integration and rest and kind of regaining your energy. Because if you think about what's required here, if you're fighting off these energies, you're creating boundaries, and you're doing this hard work, that can be exhausting. So we need to replenish ourselves. And Yoga Nidra is really incredible practice for that. So if you like Yoga Nidra, then you can go onto my YouTube channel and you can find a bunch of Yoga Nidra resources there that you can practice. And just to show you too, is like, you really look at the card, because sometimes things pop out at you. Like, I've been using this deck since I was 12 years old, and I still find things that I didn't see before. So I swear they're like living cards. So if you notice up here in the stained glass window, PAX, which means peace in Latin. So it's like finding that sense of peace, right? But that's just something you can look for if you're using your own cards, is to like look at all the details, like really meditate on each card, and things will start to pop out to you and messages will be received, and it'll just help you it'll help you to connect more deeply on a personal level with each of the cards and create your own meanings around them, because there's no wrong meaning. There's no wrong meaning. And another wands, 9 of Wands, more wands here. So this is really about a passion project or something that is really connected with that life force energy. Okay, so 9 is a culmination number. It's almost to 10. So it's like into that completion energy. But it's also about integration again, because 9 is really that last moment before you get to the end at the 10, where you pause and you review and you look back on all the work that you've done. So that's kind of what he's doing here. It's very similar energy to this one, but the difference being the 9 of Wands, he's really been through it. I mean, he's mentally been through it. He has the bandage on his head. Like, you don't get that sense so much with this one. And that's the thing too, when you really look at the cards, like, how is it that the card makes you feel? Like, what is the energy that you're picking up from the card? What does it make you feel to look at the card? What do you notice right away? Okay, so this message about the bandage on the head, it could mean that there was like some psychological damage done. It was really a mental struggle to go through whatever it was, but so much has been done. So it's like, okay, yeah, you've been through a lot, but pause and look back and see all that's been completed. And you're almost there. You're almost there. You only have this one left to do. You're almost to the 10. And then if you look at the color theory, we have the blue in the background, and the blue means all the wisdom that's gained along the way. So lots of wisdom gained along the way with this 9 of Wands. And then also with the 7 of Wands, also lots of blue in the sky. So when setting these boundaries, it's a big lesson. Lots of learning happens when these boundaries are set. And then just to go back to the 3 of Wands. So this deck is very old. So if you get a newer deck, the sky will look gray, but here it's kind of beige. And that's just a reminder, when you see that gray or beige color on the card, it's telling you that the future is unwritten and it's neutral. Everything is neutral in the future when you look ahead. So it's up to you to create that future, and anything can happen because the future has not yet been written. I do encourage you to get your own cards, because it's a wonderful way to practice tapping in with your intuition. Okay, the Emperor. So now this is our first major arcana card of this spread here that we're doing. So the major arcana cards, you'll see, have the name of the card written on the bottom. And these are more major life events, really impactful. okay, and they're archetypal. So if you look back on the minor arcana, so these have different suits. So these are two of the four suits. You have the wands, the swords, and then there's the pentacles or coins and the cups, each connected with a different element. So those are the more day-to-day things. The major arcana are more archetypal, more bigger events. So I often like people to look at this card, this particular card, the Emperor, and just take a moment, look at the card, and ask yourself what you feel. How does this card make you feel? And the reason I do that is because this card can often trigger in people unconsciously, however they feel about their own father will come up when they look at this card. Whatever this card makes them feel when they look at it, there's some unconscious resonance with however they feel about their father. So some people feel very safe and protected when they look at this card. Some people feel constricted and kind of like almost imprisoned or just kind of this patriarchal authoritarian vibe going on. This is connected with fire and the Aries sign in the zodiac. You can see the ram's heads here. And this is connected with the father and the patriarchy. And 4 is about foundations, very pragmatic, very solid, very of the material world. There is a lot of wisdom, as you can see in his white beard. So this long white beard is the symbol of wisdom when you see a character that has that. And then he's also protected. He's got his armor underneath his robes. So there's a message of protection and safety there. And his robes are red. So that can be like passion, life force, but then also that kind of fiery personality, which can be connected with a lot of ego or a lot of anger sometimes. And he has his scepter. He's presiding over, he's ruling over. So this could potentially be an actual person in your life, or it could be referring to the patriarchy itself. Let's see what comes up after this. Kind of understand where that's coming from. Okay, so the 10 of Pentacles. So there's some mess. So the 10 of Pentacles, the Pentacles are another suit of the minor arcana connected with the earth element, sometimes also called the coins. And so this is a big card about family. 10s are about endings, but they're often about community also. And you can see there's a whole scene here. There's lots going on in this card. So we have the couple, and then we have the dogs. We have a child right here petting one of the dogs. And then we have an old man in the back. Okay, so I wasn't sure exactly where we were going with this one, if it was, symbolic of the father, symbolic of the patriarchy or whatever. So because I'm pulling this card after, it's kind of telling me there's some connection with family, because this card is really about the generations. You see the 3 generations represented. There's also lots of signs in the back, like telling the story of the family. There's the story of the tower, which is crisis. There's a story of justice with the scales. So it's like, and then there's the story of the duality here with the checkerboard. And then we have the coat of arms on the back of this robe that the old man is wearing as he's kind of sitting back and observing the arch. This is like a rite of passage. And then you have the whole village behind them, the buildings. So this is really, a lot of this is about family. So there's some kind of message coming through about a father figure, and how that figure is playing a role in the family. There could be something to do with finances, because the Pentacles are about finances. They can be about anything pragmatic, home, family, finances, job, career, that kind of thing. So in the realm of those topics, of the pragmatic earth element things, there's something about this emperor energy. So there could be something about the patriarchy and how it's affecting your job. There could even be an ending around your job coming, because the tens are about endings and closure, one chapter ending, another beginning. There can be some kind of ending within the family itself around someone that plays a father role. Okay, so that's something you can think about. Okay, so the third type of card, you already had the major arcana, the minor arcana. Okay, and then this is the court cards. So there are 4 types of court cards. We have the page, the knight, the queen, and the king. And those are of each suit. So the page of wands, then we have the page of swords, page of coins. So 4 of each of the 4 suits. Okay, so you can read the court cards as real people. Sometimes it's actually referring to a person, but it can also be like a mini timeline. So pages would be new beginnings. Okay. Could also be a younger person. And I would really encourage you to really look at the character on the card and see if it looks like someone that might be connected with whatever it is coming up for you in the reading, because sometimes it actually just jumps out that it really looks like someone. Okay, so it's a new beginning in the realm of the wands being your life, passion, and purpose. So interestingly, that these came up before, right? Because there may have been some kind of patriarchal potential ending to maybe something in career or home, or some kind of financial thing. Something's coming to an end in connection with the patriarchal or father-like energy. And then there's a new beginning. There's a new beginning about your passion and purpose, about your life purpose, your life force energy, where you want to create. And you can see here, I like the prompt for this card as follow your curiosity, rather than follow your passion, which this is Elizabeth Gilbert talks about this in her book, Big Magic, which is for any creative people, I highly recommend. And we're all creative. But she talks about how, people say follow your passion, and that can sometimes feel too overwhelming or too, like there's too much expectation around that. So if you instead follow your curiosity, and that's such a good way of kind of framing where your energy wants to flow. Because if you follow where your energy wants to flow, that's your intuition. So if you're curious about something, that's a message that you should follow it. And see the page of wands. Look at how he's like investigating this wand. He's really looking at it. He's so curious. He's just absorbed in it. Right? When we can become absorbed in something with curiosity, that's when we enter the flow state. That's when we're really super creative. So when you find yourself curious about something, really follow that, pursue that curiosity, because that's what's going to allow you to open up to the creativity of it. Okay. And then also he has a feather in his cap. So it's like he's learned something already. When you accomplish something, you put a feather in your cap. And this is, these kind of symbols like this, when you get used to reading all these different symbols in the tarot cards, you're much better at interpreting your dreams. There's so much crossover between tarot and dream work. Reading tarot is amazing practice for interpreting your dreams, because if you can start to interpret all these little symbols in the tarot, you'll be able to break down your dreams in the same way. kind of see all these little things happening. And you can also see here, okay, can you see these little salamanders, how they're eating their own tails? And it's like the salamanders are, they're a symbol of the fire element, but they're also a symbol of regeneration. So that's why they're eating their own tail. It's kind of like the Ouroboros. So there's this healing quality to that because it's like this the cycle of life, right? It's just an ending leads to a beginning. An ending leads to a beginning, like we were talking about with the 9. It's almost done because the 10 is the ending, but then it's just indicative of a new beginning happening. One chapter ends, the next chapter begins, right? And that's this kind of cyclical nature of life. It's not a straight line. And then beyond that, if you even look to these mountains behind the page here, there may even be some kind of past life karma or past life memory or something to do with a past life if you believe in reincarnation. Those mountains are ancient wisdom. They're kind of like pyramids. So there's a prompt here to maybe think about, it doesn't even have to be a past life if you feel like that isn't a belief system you want to follow, but you can think about the past lives of your ancestors because you're carrying that in your body as well. So there's just this message of the ancient wisdom that you carry in your body that has been passed down through the generations. And that contributes to this wisdom of the blue in the sky. So as you come into this curiosity of this new beginning, that's awakening all of your creativity. It's also awakening this ancient wisdom because all of that lives within the timeless time, creativity and curiosity. We're transcending logic. We're transcending rational thought. We're in the other side of the brain. We're in the right side of the brain that's connected with the unconscious, that's connected with creativity. Logic and ration and all that is on the left side. But we're tapping into a deeper source when we go into the right brain. And then we can access all this ancient wisdom and access maybe past life memories or just these gifts that may be lying dormant that have come from our ancestors, just handed down in our families. So be curious, stay curious, and wonder about all of those things. Okay, so you set your plan with passion and purpose because you're manifesting, you're creating, you're casting the spell, remembering that this is a life of illusory duality because we are all interconnected, but we have to play the rules of that game. And then there's battles along the way, protecting our energy fields, setting our boundaries. And doing that will actually help us see which path to take. Because if you look at his shoes here, he has 2 different shoes on. He doesn't know what direction he's going in. He doesn't know where he's going. So once you set those boundaries, you can more clearly see what is your energy and what's somebody else's energy. And then you'll know which direction to go in. And then integrating that wisdom. And there will be more challenges along the way, but you will come to the end having completed all that you wanted to do. And reigning over the kingdom that you've created, right? So there's that message, but then there's also the message that we talked about in this kind of mini connection between these 2 cards of, there might be some kind of ending coming with a patriarchal energy, something to do with the pragmatic, career, job, home, finances. And then whatever it is that ends, you're going to come to your new beginning of the page and being able to better connect with your life passion and purpose and your creativity and your curiosity and ancient wisdom. I hope you liked that reading today, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.